Cool. One more button to press. Knew there'd be one more button to press. Alright. Hello. This is another Board Game Cafe stream where I'm going to be showing off Board Game Cafe. Our next game from us here at Nomad Games, where you run your own board game cafe. So this is a slightly different stream to last time, whereas last time I turned around and said, okay, this is the first stream that we've ever done for Board Game Cafe, so I'm going to be going through the game and showing you as much as I can of what we've got developed so far. For this stream, I'm going to be answering questions. So this might look a little bit different to what you saw in the previous stream, but that's because we're still actively working on Board Game Cafe. So compared to just a week ago, the game's already come along leaps and bounds, which is quite cool to look at. So we now have this main menu sort of map look once you go into the game. So let's zoom in. Right, we're in Board Game Cafe. Hey Scott Sword, thanks for tuning in as always. How's it going? It's going all right. I woke up this morning a little bit, not brain foggy, but a little bit like out of it. So I have the power of tea to keep me going, because I'm not gonna disappoint all the people that want to watch Board Game Cafe. I will say, I put out the call for questions on the Discord and a couple of other places, and we didn't get that many questions ahead of the stream. So I'm going to look to all of you guys to ask me questions about the game. And just like we do with, for anyone that doesn't know, every month we do a Nomad monthly roundup where it covers all the news out of our tiny game studio. So it's just an easy way to see what we've been up to over the past month, give you a little bit of insight into what's going on behind the scenes. And we do a monthly mailbag as part of that. So people can send us in whatever questions they want, literally anything, and we'll answer it. So we've had people ask us about the 5th edition of Talisman, because they know that we've promised to answer each and every question that comes in. Not saying that we'll be able to answer it fully, and if we can't answer it fully, we'll explain why. But yeah, basically, we have a good policy of answering any questions that you send to us, or at least explaining why we can't answer them. So I'm going to be relying on, like I said, you guys in the chat to ask me questions, but I also have a backup plan, which I'm going to rely on, which is originally when we first put out the announcement for Board Game Cafe, we put out a FAQ, sort of anticipating the kinds of questions that people would be asking. So if at any point there isn't that many questions coming in, I'll go back to that so I can answer those and just go into a little bit more detail on what those questions and answers were. But first of all, I'm going to move my Board Game Cafe to be here. I'm going to pop out chat so I can see it a little bit better. I'm here with coffee but not board games. Fair. First question, Meeple emoji in Discord when? That is a good question, especially because it makes me realise that actually we do need to update the emojis in the Nomad Games Discord. So I'm going to make a note to do that. So the when is soon. The exact date on that is once I get time to do it. But I will make a note of that, Scott Sword. So Board Game Cafe Discord emojis. They're coming. They're officially coming. They're on my big list of things to do. I haven't really had questions for the mailbag and rounders, but I've been very glad and appreciative for reading them. It's good. Yeah, like, that's the thing. We know that not everyone is going to have questions, but we know that people will appreciate reading what other people have asked and getting a bit of insight. So, Real Dave #1. I own everything on the Talisman Digital Edition. Best storytelling game ever. Usually telling comedies. Fair. Yeah. Like, there's so many things that can go wrong. So many things that can happen in Talisman that you just... God, a lot of bad things have happened to me. Speaking of comedies, we've actually implemented quite a lot of AI. Well, basically we've put a lot more characters into Board Game Cafe over the last month or so. So we had a lot of pre-generated ones and a lot of randomly generated ones. Excuse me, having a drink. And as we've put in more pre-generated ones, we've noticed that certain things are starting to happen, which make for interesting stories. So one of the things that we noticed recently was we had a father and his son come into the cafe. And each customer has a certain amount of money that they can spend in the cafe. So like certain people will be willing to spend more, certain people will be willing to spend less. So this father and son come into the cafe. And because at this point we still have that income set on a per character basis, like it's not based on the relationship that those characters have. It's the father had quite a bit of money to spend, and the son didn't. So the dad goes up to the counter, orders his drink. Son goes up to the counter, orders his drink, and they both sit down at the table. And the father, because he's got more money to spend, has this like fancy hot chocolate, looks really nice, dead happy with it. Because his son's a child, he doesn't have as much money, and proceeds to only be able to get water. So his dad's sitting there like, oh, this is really nice drink, son. It's, feeling pretty happy with this. The son's, well, I've got no money, and apparently my dad won't buy me a drink, so I've got to have tap water. Which, obviously, we can figure out how to make that work once the game gets closer to release. But it's just a funny situation where dad's like, well, I work for my money. I don't know what this freeloader of a son expects from me, but I am going to get myself a really nice drink, and you can get whatever you can afford. Alright. Maximus player wants to buy the game. Captain is dead, but there is no copy for sale. Consider purchasing one in case they come back. I will purchase an extra copy of that, because I believe... so what just happened there, for anyone that's paying attention to what's happening while I was rambling about parents not buying drinks for their kids, is we had a group come in and play The Captain is Dead. A couple of people managed... Well, I think someone managed to win, and based on the fact that they just finished playing Captain is Dead, 2 people then went up to the front counter and said, oh, I really liked that game, I want to buy a copy. The issue is that I have literally 1 copy in stock, so I only have the 1 copy. So I can now buy extra copies of The Captain is Dead, assuming that the people that came in and wanted a copy will then come back. So I will buy... Let's buy 2 copies of The Captain is Dead. So I won't get them immediately. They will get shipped to me, so I'll be able to get them tomorrow. So I can't just go, oh, sorry, we've got none in stock. Don't worry, I'll just pop around the corner. Like, you need to anticipate the fact that deliveries take time. So sometimes you do need to think ahead. Like, if you know certain games are really popular or they're like blowing up right now, you can be like, oh, I want to get multiple copies of this certain game in stock ready, in case more people want to buy it. Alright, that's finished that explaining. I've bought more copies of The Captain is Dead. So I'm gonna dismiss that. Right, cool. Will there be board game club drama? That's the plan. So at the moment we have some pre-generated characters and some randomly generated ones, but we're planning on having certain relationships like established between different characters and different customers. So you'll be able to see, for example, a certain board game club that comes in every Wednesday, and they're like, oh well, we come in every Wednesday, we play these games, and one week you might notice, oh, why's Steve not come in with the rest of the board game club? And then Steve will come in like the next day on his own or with someone else, and you'll be like, why is Steve not coming with everyone else? So there will be little stories like that you can pick up on as the regulars keep coming in. So there will be some drama. I expect there to be some drama. All right. Someone's having a burger while she sits with her pirate friend. We added costumes to the game recently. So not only will people wear normal clothes, they'll also sometimes come in different get-ups. At the moment, it's random whether or not people come in costume. But we want to make it so that if there's a particular group that, for example, come in and play fantasy games, sometimes they'll all come in dressed as their characters from the game. So they'll come in and be like, oh, we're having an epic quest today, and I've come in dressed as the wizard to make myself more of the game master. So stuff like that, like we're adding as time goes on. Will customers have a reputation for being sore losers and flipping tables? Not necessarily flipping tables, but I think the idea that some customers will be sore losers is definitely something that we want to have in the game. Like, we don't want to have it so that everyone is like, oh, this game's great and I'm happy with absolutely everything. Like, we want to have customers that come in and say, oh, I wasn't happy with losing this game 10 times in a row. I'm going to leave you a bad review. But there'll be ways that you can like help them with that. Like, you can let your staff members teach them how to be better at the game, or help them learn ways to be better at the game, so that they get less frustrated. Poor Steve. It is poor Steve. This game is quite fun once you get into it. Classic. Yeah, we've put in some customer lines so that as you're playing, customers will express what they are feeling as they're playing. Yeah, at the moment it's pretty basic, but we're going to be expanding on it as we go on. You know you're a board gamer if you say. All right, so let's answer some questions from the FAQ, and I'll just go through them, and then as the answers are already there, I won't just read off those answers because that's a bit boring. Instead, I'll just answer it with the current state of the game, because obviously that will have changed slightly since then. And while I'm doing that, I'm also going to show off some furniture placement. So let's do some decorating. So first one is, are you going to include my favourite game? So this is a question that we've already been asked quite a few times, and everyone's favourite game is different. So the answer to that question is, we'd be very happy to include your favourite game, but we need to know what your favourite game actually is. So we have a form that you can find. It's a Google form that you can find on our Discord. You can find on the Steam forums. You can find it. Where else can you find it? Pretty sure those are the best places to find it. But yeah, once you open up that form in Google Docs, not Google Docs, Google Forms. I'm not explaining myself as I should be, and also because my face was being covered by Board Game Cafe, I couldn't see how low down I was on there, so apologies. Right, go to external site. Let's see if I can post this in the actual chat. That would be cool. Right, cool. So, obviously if you're watching this after the fact, or if you're not watching this live on Twitch, you won't be able to click on that. But hopefully, if you are watching this live on Twitch, you'll be like, oh cool, I will press that button and see what it does, and you'll be impressed. You'll be able to answer what your favourite board game is, what game you would like to see in Board Game Cafe, and then we're basically collating a massive list of community requested board games. So we obviously know that some board games will be more popular than others, but we want it to be very community driven in terms of what games get included in Board Game Cafe. Obviously we'll be adding more as time goes along, but we want it to be driven by you guys. So you can let us know what board game you want to see, whether that's something that's in print or out of print. Let us know. Like, once we have that information that people want it, we can then go talk to the publishers of those games and say, look, we've had a big community request to put this particular game in Board Game Cafe. This is what it would take for us to do it. Is that cool with you? We'll sort out the licensing, sort out all of the legal stuff to actually get it in the game, and then you'll be able to actually see people play it in Board Game Cafe. Like, you'll be able to stock it in your cafe, you'll be able to unbox it. You won't be able to play it yourself because there's already hundreds of ways you can do that, but we want to be able to allow you to stock what board games you want in your cafe. So the answer to the question is, are you going to include my favourite game? Let us know what your favourite game is and we'll be able to do it. Obviously depends on the licenses and who we'd be talking to, and whether or not they'd be happy with it. So for example, one of the biggest community requests at the moment for a board game to add is Betrayal at House on the Hill. So that's a game that we really like here at Nomad, and we'd be very happy to put in Board Game Cafe. We just need to figure out licenses and rights and the legal side of actually getting that into Board Game Cafe. But once we figure that out, we should be able to put it in, and that'd be pretty cool. Right, let's put a plant, and then I'd like to put a... let's put a vending machine. Vending machine is always a solid choice. I feel like every time I play this game, I always put a vending machine here. I don't know why. I just feel like I do. All right. Could the customers also play the Talisman game there, or is it not fitting? Customers could absolutely play Talisman here. That is absolutely something that they'd be able to do. We just need to obviously implement Talisman into the game. So that would involve the actual process of getting a game into Board Game Cafe is fairly easy, to be honest. So we need a physical copy of the board game that we want to have in the game. And also what we tend to need is the information that the physical retailer would send to the printers. Obviously, what they send to the printers isn't exactly what you'd need to 3D import it into the game, but it gives us enough to work with, so we can say, okay, well, we'll transfer these images from the box onto a 3D box in the game, show how that would be unboxed, look at all the miniatures, look at all the pieces that come with it, look at all the instruction manuals, scan them in, make sure it's as high detailed as we can possibly make it, and then make it so that it looks right in Board Game Cafe. So yeah, in terms of getting people to play Talisman, yeah, we've got copies of Talisman in the office. We would just need to scan them in, and then that would work. Yeah. So basically, the way that we're looking at it is, I don't think there's any game that we'd look at and say, this doesn't fit the vibe, because resumes posture check. Is that more? My chair is quite low. Alright, is that a bit better? Is that a bit better? Alright, we've got people coming in, people buying drinks, people browsing the board games. We've got rain outside, but we can't see it. I can hear it though. Is it raining? I feel like it's raining. I can hear raining, unless it's outside in the real world, but I don't think it is. Yeah, so basically, in terms of, is there anything that wouldn't be suitable for Board Game Cafe as a game? We don't see it that way, because if you would see it in an actual real-life Board Game Cafe, why don't you see it in the digital one? So yeah, nothing's really off limits. If it is a board game, yeah, we'd be happy to put it in. Oh my god, it's the man, the myth, the legend. It's Chester Chuffington. So before I said about certain characters being pre-generated, so Chester Chuffington is a retired train driver who only comes in and plays one game, and that is Ticket to Ride. He does not care about anything else. He is not interested in any other game. He just wants to play Ticket to Ride. I don't know if it makes him feel like he's going back to the old train driver's days, but that's all he's interested in, which is fair. Once you find the game that you like, that's all you want to play. Alright, I have missed some questions, I feel, so I'm going to scroll up. So let's dismiss that. How much of the actual gameplay of each board game by your customers will you be able to follow along with? So you won't be able to follow it exactly, because implementing the rules and making the AI fully play each individual board game in Board Game Cafe would be quite the ask. Making it so that it's sticks to the rules and is a one-to-one representation. We had a discussion about it. We were like, you know, do we want to do that? Do we want to have it so that people, it's clear that they're actually playing a full game that you can like zoom in on, and watch them play. Also, these people left their drinks. Good thing our staff member's there to clean it. No animation for that yet, but the idea works. Yeah, so we had a discussion about that internally. We were like, do we want to have it so that you can... it's a bit of a quiet day, that. No one bought any games. Bit sad. But yeah, we want to make it so that... what was I even saying? Yeah, basically putting in the effort. Well, I say effort. Basically making it so that every single game is one-to-one represented as fully rules intact in Board Game Cafe, and you can zoom in and watch them play, would be such a huge ask from a development and art and animation point of view that we decided it wouldn't be worth doing for the benefit that it brings to the game. Like, it would bring a benefit to the game, because you would be able to zoom in and be like, oh, they're actually playing Fury of Dracula, or oh, they're actually playing Talisman. I can see them moving around the board. We're not going to have it so that nothing happens. We're still going to have some sort of interaction and animation. But for an entirely rules-accurate game to happen, that would require so much also, like, processing power. For example, if you had 5 games happening in your cafe of Talisman at the same time. We've got to simulate 5 different games of Talisman while you're also running your cafe. And that would just be such a resource hog that we're going to have to cheese it a little bit. It'll still simulate the idea that you're watching people play the game, but for a one-to-one rules adaptation, we decided that it wouldn't be worth it, and it made more sense to put our development focus into other parts of the game. Like, we don't want you to be like, I can't put down floors, but I can watch someone play a full game of Talisman. Like, we figured it was better to put our efforts elsewhere. Alright, speaking of efforts, I am going to put some money into some local print, because I feel like yesterday was a slow day, so I'm going to see if I can get some more people in. Alright, let's have a look what we've got in the chat, because I've just rambled. Are concerns of constraints of board games something you considered? Like, say, you can't play Talisman if you have the small square or circle tables in your cafe. Have you ever opened Talisman Friend? So that is something we've considered. So when it comes to the different board games in your cafe, we've got a list of statistics and stats for each board game. Basically, you can break down board games into a lot of similar stats, like how many people does it need? Can it be played by just one person? Does it need a minimum of 4 people? Like, these are all things that we're plugging into Board Game Cafe. A recommendation. Hello, I've enjoyed playing Cascadia. I'm looking for similar games to play. I like the Cascadia. Takes 60 minutes to play, and there's the genre family. Can you suggest a similar game for my group of 3? We don't have a game with that combination. Apologies. But if people do like Cascadia, I do see people playing Cascadia quite a lot. Let's get more copies of Cascadia. Cool. We now have more copies of Cascadia. Yeah, where was I? Yes. So yes, we do factor in how much space the game takes when it comes to tables. So if you have someone that wants to play a massive all expansions table takeover game, like, you can only have so many of those in your cafe at once. So you need to factor that in when designing your cafe. Like, there's no point in buying 10 copies of 6-player games and then filling your cafe with tiny tables. Like, if you're playing in a cafe that has very small space, like when you're first starting the campaign, you might start in a cafe that is super small. You're like, okay, well, I'll buy a couple of small card games and a couple of small tables just to give people the ability to do that. Alright, how do I get rid of my overview? Alright, graph. Cool. Everyone's complaining about my filthy cafe. Well, I'm trying, alright? I'm trying my best. I paid for advertising, and now I've got too many people coming in, and they're all complaining, and I'm trying to keep an eye on stream chat, and... Alright. And you're just standing there, looking kind of upset. A generous donor is giving your cafe a large tip. Nice. Cool. I'm happy with that. Yeah, so if customers are particularly happy with your cafe, sometimes they'll give you big tips, which is always nice. You can put in extra effort with your customers. Alright, feel like it's getting near to the end of the day. Everyone's sort of calmed down. We don't have a game with that combination. Yeah, I think I just don't have that many games in stock at the moment. So even if people come in and say, oh, have you got this kind of game? I don't have that many in stock, so I can't really recommend you that. But obviously as the game goes on, you'll get more games in your cafe, expand your board game shelf, and be able to offer things that people are asking for. Right, things seem to have calmed down a little bit now, so I'm gonna keep this rolling. while I answer some more questions. Let's put in another pie plant. Cool. Right, she's helped out someone that didn't understand the game. That's quite good. Alright. Speaking of this game, is there an Easter egg that we can see the talisman in the game? So, not in this build, but hopefully, when we finally do roll out the full version of Board Game Cafe, we'll be able to include talisman. I think, given that we're so close with Games Workshop, I can't see a reason why we wouldn't have talisman in there, but as we're still early in development, we've only got permission from a couple of publishers to include their games in this version. Monster Bag game Dead Reckoning, but there's only one copy. It was bought for 25. So I can either sell the game or keep it. If I sell it, then for the rest of the day, no one will be able to play it. But I can just order another copy. So I think I will sell that, and then I'm going to literally, as soon as I sell the last copy, someone else comes up to the front desk and goes, I want to book a copy too. Sorry mate, I've literally just sold the last one. Alright, so I'm going to buy 2 copies of Dead Reckoning, because then I have one more that I can put on the shelf for people to play, and then I'll have another one that people can buy if they want. Are solo games / gamers covered? They are, Geeky Chappy. They most certainly are. So we are going to include solo play games and games that allow you to play single player. So you will have certain people that come into the cafe and just say, oh cool, I only want to play a single player game, that's my preference, and they'll be able to do that. Obviously they'll still pay to play, and you can set up individual tables for them if you so wish. So it's quite good to have a mixture of table sizes in your cafe, because you are going to have groups of 6 and you are going to have individual people. Like if you just fill your cafe with big tables, that person that sits on their own is going to be like, I don't really have anywhere to sit other than this table of 6. It's a bit awkward. You'd have to program every game and make AIs that can play it. That would be an insane amount of work. It would. It most certainly would. So I think we're going to go ahead and not do that. Like we said, we talked about it and talked about whether or not we would want to do that. But we decided, no, it's not worth the it's not worth the effort, because like it would add a lot to the game. But there's better ways that we can spend our time as developers. So let's buy 2 copies. Let's buy 3 copies of Dead Reckoning, because people seem to like that. I wanted to buy a pastry, but it's too expensive. Should I decrease the cost of my pastries? Because that is something, as far as I'm aware, I can do. So if I drop the price to $1, so it costs me 1 to get it in, sell it for $1. So I'm not actually making any money off my pastries. But my assumption would be that if I get people happy because they can buy a pastry, they'll buy more stuff in the cafe. You might as well release those games if you're going to do that. Yeah, I think something that we talked about in the early stages of development was the fact that we don't want to compete with people like Tabletop Simulator or Board Game Arena, because there's already games out there that allow you to simulate board games. That's not what we're aiming to do here. We want to have the experience of managing a board game cafe. So actually playing the games yourself, there's plenty of other ways you can do that. Oh, you want a game like Cascadia? How about another copy of Cascadia? I struggle with this, but games are meant to be played, I guess. If someone wants to eat a greasy burger and I've got Discworld and Morph on the table, they are washing their hands before they play. Yes. So something that I don't think I've mentioned on streams previously is the fact that the messiness of the food in your cafe is something that you need to consider. So all of the board games that you have in stock have a where is it? Yes, so you can see you have one in stock. You have a store copy condition. You have whether or not the store copy is sleeved, and you have how many are to be delivered. So the way that we've implemented this is as people play with your store copies, they will actually degrade. Just like if you ran an actual board game cafe. Like, we talk to people that run board game cafes, and one of the things that they needed to consider that we hadn't thought about before talking to them was the fact that obviously if you have members of the public coming in, picking up your copies of board games and playing them, like, they're getting a lot more use than they would if they were just nicely kept at home and no one was playing with them. So your board games will deteriorate in quality over time. As they reach a certain level, customers will be like, I'm not going to play with this game because it's got burger stains all over it. So you can then sell it at a reduced price, or stick it in a bargain bin. Like, we still need to figure out exactly what we're going to be able to do with the board games once they reach a certain level of quality. But the idea would be that there's certain foods that are messier than others. So obviously playing Smash Up while eating pizza is going to have more of a negative impact on that game than playing Smash Up while just drinking a drink in a bottle. So certain foods will be more worthwhile to invest in. So like if you're selling pizza, people that play board games tend to like pizza. But pizza is messy, so you need to think about that. Another thing that you need to consider is the type of customers that you're having in your board game cafe. So for example, a kid, like a young child, playing Tiny Towns is going to be a bit more messy than an adult who's like, oh, okay, this is clearly someone else's board game that I've paid to play with. I should probably return it in how I found it. Kids are a bit more messy than that. So if you stock games that are more geared towards children, that's something that you need to think about as well. Like, is it worth stocking Tiny Towns again a little bit? Let's buy a second copy just so that I've got a fresh one. Anyone played Thunderstone Quest? No, it's a bit expensive for Thunderstone Quest. What else have I got in stock? I've got 3 Dead Reckonings on the way. Cubitos. Let's buy a copy of that. Edge of Darkness. Let's have 1 copy of that in, because I figure like some people are going to go to... we've got chess in, dominoes, Chinese checkers. Let's get some dominoes in. So I do only have so much space for board games, so I've got 5 more board games I could have in stock. But I think for now that'll probably be alright. Alright. Do I need more tables? I think more tables might be a good idea actually, because I seem to be getting quite a few people in. So let's see where I can put this. I want to put this... Let's get a small table and just put it here. That'll do. Right, cool. Next day. Let's go to the next day. This game is really going to reveal my lack of knowledge about board games. Yeah, we're hoping that as people play Board Game Cafe, they actually learn about board games that they wouldn't necessarily have seen before. They'll be like, oh, I've never seen that game before, that looks quite cool. I assume because they need to own a physical copy of the game to scan it in, then out-of-print games won't be covered, such as many of the classic Games Workshop back catalogue. So not necessarily. So as long as we can get our hands on a physical copy of the board game, we should be able to scan it in. The system that we've got currently is a little bit, I don't want to say janky, but it's not the kind of in-depth system that we're going to be using as we launch into early access. It's very much just like a proof of concept at the moment. But once we hit a point where we are set up to properly import games easily, in theory, we should only need a physical copy of the game that we can then scan in. Obviously, having the information from the physical publisher makes it a lot better. But like, if you go onto Board Game Geek and check out all of the pictures for board games that are out of print, you'll see there's actually quite a lot of high detailed photos and scans that people have already taken, so it is doable. I've completed Challenge Customer Storm. Bear with me 1 second, I'm going to drink my tea. This food is great. It challenges making money. I can do that. And 1,000. Also, this man was drinking water and said this food is great. I think this man might be slightly insane. But we won't judge. We won't judge him. We won't judge him for being slightly insane. We're all a bit insane. Consider myself a board gamer, but I've already seen a game I wasn't aware of, so a good way for other publishers to advertise. So far, playing this game before the public can have it, does the game reel you into play it even outside of your job yet? Somewhat. There have been times when I've been like, oh, I might just boot up some Board Game Cafe. Give it a playthrough while I'm busy thinking about something else. We're definitely implementing. You think this game is stressful? Try playing with my family at Thanksgiving. Fair. As we're implementing more mechanics and there's more stuff to be aware of as you're playing, I think it's definitely getting there. When we were playing about a month ago, like, you could balance the plates a little bit too easily. Like, it's very much a game of you're going to be spinning a lot of different plates as you're playing. And I think what we've realised is that as we add more and more things that the player needs to consider, it's getting better and better. Like, it's hitting that point already where we're like, okay, this is engaging enough that I feel like I have to keep my focus on the game. Also, these messy, absolute, just disgusting. Good thing it can vanish out of thin air. The benefits of playing a pre-launch alpha. Yeah, as we're adding more and more plate spinning to the game, it's getting closer and closer to where we want it to be in terms of making the player feel engaged. Nobody came in and browsed. A few people playing games though. That's not bad. Alright, let's go on to... Actually, let's see what furniture we can add. Let's see, because I know that in this build, I believe... Don't quote me on this, and don't hate me if this now doesn't work. We should be able to buy wallpaper. So the wallpaper I've chosen is the one that's already on. So let's not do that. Let's change. Let's see if I can change. It's the ultimate test. Let's see if I can change the floor. So you can change the colours and then buy. So I should. I now have a different floor for where the till is. Tell you what. Gaming. Lets you live out your wildest fantasies. Obviously, we've just implemented that as this is a thing that you can do. And then once the game goes on, we'll add more stuff like that. We want to make it so that you can customize your cafe in loads of different ways. Let's have a look outside. Who are you? Isabella Round. Interesting name. What are you doing? Come on, Isabella. You're sitting at this table that I've put in. You're having a little walk. Going up to the counter. What are you ordering? What's on the menu today? You've got yourself a... Isabella has got herself a bottle of wine and is sitting on her own, just drinking a bottle of wine. I think we should just leave Isabella to it. I don't know what's... She likes fruit and wine. She's a casual cardboarder, and she knows Tiny Towns fairly well. Cool. Well, we're going to leave Isabella to drink her wine, and we're going to look at a knight and a superhero, their child, and their other child. I feel sorry for these kids who have parents that are coming to a board game cafe dressed as a knight and superhero. I'd like to know the story behind that, but you get some strange people coming in. So far playing this game, so questions. I said I'd answer questions on these streams, and I'm getting distracted by the video game. Not good at this. And missing pieces. Yes, so something that you'll need to factor in is that some games will end up having missing pieces. We need to think about how we're going to handle that, whether you'll be able to order specific pieces, whether it be like an end game thing where you can get a 3D printer in your board game cafe. That'd be quite cool that you can print missing pieces with that, save you more money in the long run. Yeah, stuff like that. We're still figuring out how exactly we want to implement this, but the core gameplay is what we're focusing on. So basically those extra things we want to build on. I don't think I could ever bring myself to serve pizza alongside board games, no matter how much the profit. Well, you know, that's just the decision you're going to have to make. You'll need to buy more shelves. Yes, so expanding the shelf space in your cafe is also something that you need to consider. I think we're also thinking about whether or not you'll be able to have like a behind the shop, like a back room in certain cafes. Like obviously that will cost you more rent, but then you'd be able to have stock behind the scenes. Can you choose how the board game library is organised? Family stuff on one shelf, heavy strategy games on another, etc. So our plan at the moment is to have it so that you can sort it yourself, but we haven't implemented that. Like we want to be able to give you the option to sort it alphabetically or by genre, but we've not implemented that. So basically we need to figure that out, but once we do, we'll be able to share more information about that. Maybe it's part of sitting all the sun in the day. A cold water is very satisfying. I guess the real challenge would be getting the rights out of print games. Hopefully the Games Workshop will be easier if they're okay with their older games being represented. Yeah, fair. Yeah, it is an interesting one because sometimes games go out of print for different reasons. Like a game might go out of print because they had one print run and they just never renewed it. Or a game might be out of print because of licensing issues, if it's a game based on a movie or something. But yeah, basically it'll depend game to game whether or not. Not sure, I feel like Dennis Clawhammer. I feel like if I saw Dennis Clawhammer in a dark alley, I'd be a bit scared. What's he playing? At the moment, we just have this as a placeholder. So we just have the image of the game in front of whoever's playing it. But obviously, once we get closer to the full release, we'll have each game be laid out on the table as people are playing it and have like pieces move and the characters reach over and move them. But at the moment, this is just placeholder while we're working on that because that's a big animation job. But he seems to be enjoying his Game of Dead Reckoning. I'm glad I ordered more copies of that. I like that they're dressed up, but their kids are in normal clothes. Yeah, I don't want to know what the home life is there, where they're like, I need to wear my knight outfit, and I need to wear a superhero outfit because they're going to a board game cafe, and the kids are just like, oh, do you really have to? Can we not just go out in like normal clothes? You're so embarrassing. He's won the game. Nice one. Go back to your Victorian mansion, I assume. Alright, got some more people coming in. We've got someone dressed up as a fairy who's getting something from the vending machine. Yes, the vending machine can double as another place that people can get food and drink from. So, sort of acts like a staff member, but obviously can't help people out. You can't go up to a vending machine and say, I don't know how to play this game. Please teach me how to play this game. Back rooms. Yes, we are looking to collaborate with back rooms so that you can play your favourite board games in a haunted back room. I'm curious, is it possible to make your cafe more adults? But if you do that, the con of doing that, the game would say, the kids want so-and-so because you are more focused on adult board games, etc. Yes, so you will be able to make your cafe more adult-focused, or family-friendly, or group-focused, or individual games-focused. It all depends on what kind of games you stock in your cafe, and how you theme your cafe. So let's get in some more. Like if you want to have wine in your cafe, and you want to organize a adults only night, for example, you can do that. You can go into your calendar. Let's have a look. So at the moment, this is what we've got for the calendar for the game. It's pretty basic. It just shows you the weather, but we're going to be expanding on that as development progresses. So we want to eventually hit a point where you'd be able to go on to a specific day in your calendar and say, okay, on, I don't know, the 14th of April, I want to host a tournament for Fury of Dracula. So I'm going to set out these tables and we're going to have it so that those are designated for Fury of Dracula tournaments, and people can come in, take part, they can sign up ahead of time, register their interest, or let you know, hey, a bunch of us want to play this tournament, or, oh, this new game's coming out. A bunch of us want to play it as a tournament. Could you organise that for us? And then you'll be able to actually set that up ahead of time. Obviously, you need to consider, will there be enough people for me to run that? There's a lot to consider with that, but we want to be able to make it so that you can do that. And not only just game tournaments, we want to make it so that if you want to have a adults only night at your board game cafe, you can do that. If you want to have a old people get a drink for free if they play on a Saturday, we want to make it so that you can set that up. Yeah, Mr. Clawhammer is definitely a lifelong serial killer. No wonder he's playing solo. Well, we're not gonna judge, but we will slightly judge. I'm making a good amount of money. Let's spend more money on print advertising because that seemed to go quite well for us before. And let's get another table. Where do I want to put a large table? So I can. I don't know if I've got enough room for a large table actually. Seems to be. I could move this one. So if I can move it somewhere where it'd actually fit, I can shift around. Let's do some shifting. Let's do some furniture moving. Let's move this table. Let's move this to... If I move it a little bit further across, I could get rid of it, I suppose. Yeah, I'll get rid of it. And then what I'll do is I'll put in a bigger table, because then I've got 3 small tables over here, and then I can put 2 big tables over here, so I've got a bit more space for groups. Right. So maximum seats 6, capacity cost 2. Yeah, so you do have a capacity cost in your cafe, so you can't just fill it back to back with tables. Like, you will hit a point where people are like, feels weird to have this many tables in this cafe. But you're going over to pick a game. What game did you decide to grab? you are playing is that dominoes. Nice. Fingers crossed I do well in this game. We all say that when we sit down and play dominoes. Alright, enough of me playing the game. I'm going to answer some questions because I've neglected chat. Yes, so hopefully I answered the question about whether or not you'll be able to make your cafe more adult orientated. A lot of it will depend on the theming of your cafe as well. So we're going to add, at the moment, we basically just have your default theme, but our team are working on adding stuff like a fantasy theme and a more like sci-fi theme. So you'll be able to make your cafe suit the kind of games that you want people to play. So if you want people to be like, oh, this is the place in the city to play fantasy role-playing games. Everyone loves Dead Reckoning. Dead Reckoning's just really popular. I even got copies of Dead Reckoning still in stock. Got no copies of Mystic Vale, so I'm gonna buy a copy of that. And then, oh no, we've still got 3 copies of Dead Reckoning. So people are enjoying it, but Superman, Leo Perez. What are you after, Leo Perez? And your twin brother, who's also wearing the same costume. Yeah, this is why we want to add more customers, so that we don't have William Riviera and Leo Perez, who are not related, but look exactly the same and wearing exactly the same outfit. As we add more customers, that won't happen. Totally random chosen board game to use as an example. Totally random, yeah. No reason that I chose Fury of Dracula. Just plucked it out of thin air. Any of the video games you're enjoying as of late outside of Nomad Games off stream? Next challenge is Helping Hand. Yeah, so we're going to have challenges that come up, give you a bit of a direction to go with in the game. If I wanted to show you something else. So at the moment, if you look over at the far left, hang on, where is it in terms of where you're viewing it from? Yeah, it's the left, where you've got the overview, which shows you all the different notifications. You can turn on and off different notifications. So like if you don't want to see when someone makes a complaint because you don't want to know that people aren't having a good time at your cafe, you can turn that off. But previously, we had it so that all interactions were just blue. We've recently added it so that positive interactions come up in green, neutral in blue, and negative ones in red. So you can see at a glance, oh, more people are having positive experiences. The captain is dead. Alright, so let's get more copies of The Captain is Dead. That seems like a good idea, because we actually have 1 copy. So let's buy that. Let's get 3 copies of that, because it seems quite popular. Doesn't understand game. Oh, poor Noah Harris. He doesn't know how to play chess against Oliver Carter. Look, sometimes you just need a bit of help from the staff, and then you'll be able to play chess, and you'll know how to play it. Right. Yes, video games. I'm enjoying off stream. So I've recently completed Red Dead Redemption 2. I am far too late to that game, but I managed to complete it. So that was quite a fun time. Is it possible to have an option to pick 24 hours and a 12-hour clock for the game? Yeah. That isn't something we've implemented yet, but I can't imagine that would be something that would be too difficult to put in. So my answer, as not a developer, is yes. But don't know how to play chess, don't we all? Yeah, so you got to start somewhere. But that's the thing. So we've made it so that when you have recurring customers and like repeat customers, so for example, when Noah came in there, didn't know how to play chess, learned how to play chess thanks to our staff member helping them, his knowledge of chess increased. So next time he comes in, if he plays chess again, he'll better understand how to play chess. And every customer has this for all games. So they have like a general knowledge of board games. So like someone that's played 100 board games, they'll be able to pick up a board game pretty easily. Someone that's never played a board game before, they'll have a bit more trouble. But when it comes to specific games, people will be able to increase their knowledge and their skill at that game. Obviously it depends on the game. You can't really increase your skill at Snakes and Ladders, for example. There's no deep hidden meta to Snakes and Ladders. But for certain games, obviously you can increase your knowledge, your skill, know what to look for. So we're representing that with customers learning as they play. So as you get repeat customers, they'll be like, 2 months ago, I was absolutely rubbish at chess, and now I've just beaten a grandmaster. Obviously, that's a bit of an extreme example, but all right, let's go on to the next day. I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on people coming in at this point. Feeling fairly confident. Obviously, at the moment, these streets are pretty empty, but we want to add just cars going by. Chester Chuffington's back. No, Chester, no, come back. Why don't you want to come in? That's sad. That's sad. Why didn't Chester want to come in? Disappointed. So no Snakes and Ladders Grandmasters in my cafe. Well, I mean, they might claim to be a Grandmaster, but I don't know what you would actually be able to claim. Okay. I'm now like, is there actually a strategy to Snakes and Ladders? Would you be able to run a Snakes and Ladders tournament? I don't think so, but now I'm curious. Completed. Holy, that's huge. Yeah, it was. I got a Steam Deck for Christmas. So basically, anytime I've had some free time, I've been playing Red Dead 2 on my Steam Deck. It is a very, very cool experience. I say completed. I've completed the story. I've nowhere near started on all of the extra challenges and collectibles and getting all the animals and getting all of the treasures and stuff like that. I don't know if I will go back and do that because it seems like a lot, and I feel like I've just spent a long time being a cowboy, so I'll have to think about that. But I love a game everyone can play, don't we all? Alright, we have 2 small children. They're 3 small children, and their parent is a knight. Nice. I think we add. One of the things I'm realizing as I'm doing this stream is we have costumes in for the adult characters, but we don't have costumes in for kids. So we'll need to think about exactly. Is that Isabel around? Well, she's actually played a game this time. She didn't just come in and drink wine. You know, sometimes people change. Since you have classic games, if you had it in the market as an English company in an international market, would you call it Clue or Cluedo? That would be down to Hasbro. We would leave that down to the people at Hasbro. The Knight Armor. The Knight Armor is pretty good. I've enjoyed playing Ticket to Ride first journey and looking for similar games to play. 3 games. Similar games to my group of 2. Unfortunately, don't have anything that fits that. But as I said, as we add more board games, that'll happen less and less. Right. So. Oh yeah, the Knight Armor's a personal favourite for sure. What are you guys playing? War Chest. Nice. Solid choice. Let's go through some more questions because I've hit a lull. So let's answer some questions. So one of the questions we got is, can I play the games? You cannot play the games. So a good way that I've described this when we've been pitching this game to publishers or discussing it with people outside of Nomad is it's the difference between FIFA and Football Manager. Like in FIFA, you get to be on the pitch, you get to kick the ball around, you get to play football. In Football Manager, you don't. You are the one managing things behind the scenes. So while you can't actually play the games, like that's not what we're aiming to simulate here. We're aiming to give you the experience of managing a board game cafe, seeing all these cool board games, and being able to say, oh wow, cool, that game looks cool, that's the kind of game I want to stock. Like I said previous, you've got things like Tabletop Simulator, you've got games like Board Game Arena. They already let you play all the games that you want. We know that as a small studio, it would be mighty, mighty foolish for us to try and compete with those already established games. Like, we just wouldn't... We're not going to be able to do that. So we were like, okay, well, where can we put our focus? What could we do that would offer a different experience? And that's how we came up with Board Game Cafe. So, no, you can't play the games yourself, but that's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to do something different. Right. Do you have to buy more lighting for the cafe, or is it the game does it for you so we don't have to buy the lights? At the moment, the lights are just in by default, but we need to figure out whether that's something we want to change as the development progresses, and whether that's something we want people to care about. So at the moment, we've got just basic lamps. You can buy more, I believe. I think we've implemented... no. So you've got lamps that are already in, but at the moment you can't buy extra ones. I'm assuming because the light demand at the moment would make it all a bit much. Let's have a look. Can I put in another door? Don't know if I can. Is that working or not? Can I put in another window? Let's see if I can put in another window. I'm testing this beta build as we speak. Let's... Can I put it in? Can I do it? Can I do it? It's a little bit fiddly. It's ever so slightly fiddly. No. Cool. Tried. Everyone saw me try. This is the benefits of playing pre-alpha alpha. The most common Steam implementation does that. Exactly that, if I remember, doesn't it? Yes, I think it does call it Clue/Cluedo. Let's go to the next day. Seem to be doing pretty well. Right. Let's see. Questions. When is it coming out? So this is a question we figured that we're going to get quite a bit. And the answer is when it's ready. So I'd like to be able to turn around and say it is launching exactly on this date. But because this is a game that is so... Oh, Chester's in. Hey, Chester. How is it going? You're sitting down. You're going to be playing... Captain is Dead. Right. So his love for Ticket to Ride hasn't been implemented yet. Which makes me a bit sad, but that's okay. You're sitting on your own. Every day just sitting on their own. I know. We need to put that in ASAP. That is a big priority to make it so that Chester only plays Ticket to Ride. Because I feel like it's happened in the last stream as well, where I was like, oh my god, it's Chester. Fake Chester. It's imposter. Yes, so as I was previously saying, when is it coming out? Before I was distracted by Chester. We want to make it so that when we launch in early access, the core gameplay loop and you'll be able to play the game from start to finish is all implemented. Like, we don't want to launch it and then you get 3 hours in and it says, oh, sorry, we haven't finished this bit yet. Come back in a month and it will be finished. Like, we're not expecting to have all of the mechanics and all of the features that we want to have in the full game implemented when it launches into early access, because that's part of the point of early access. But we want you to be able to play through the game start to finish, like at least to be able to do that. And then as we go through the early access process, we will then just build upon what we've already got. Cool. Better late and well than early and broken. Yeah, that's definitely the mentality that we're bringing to it. For the cafe, do we have to worry about how many different kinds of bills to pay and pay the rent, etc.? A storm of pensioners will come to the cafe. I need to make sure I've got enough tea. Oh god, here they come. I actually don't have any tea in. I'm gonna get in a huge amount of tea. Alright, so that's not in yet, but I've put in a big order, so that's alright. I didn't realise my tea levels were getting so low. Alright, there's no space in the cafe for my group of 5. I do need more big tables. Cafe filthy, they don't like the wine bottles. I am slacking on my cafe. This is the issue, when you're trying to speak to everyone on stream, you make yourself look like you can't play the game because I'm trying to answer all the questions. For the cafeteria, if we worry about maybe different kinds of bills to pay and pay the rent, etc. Yes, so at the moment the biggest one is rent. So we're going to implement it so that larger cafes make it so that you have to pay more rent. Smaller cafes obviously have less rent because there's less floor space. But yes, rent is the big one at the moment, but we're going to be looking at what else we want the player to have to consider when paying bills. So you need to balance how much you're paying. Hey, Albedo Overseer, welcome to the stream. Cafe filthy, they don't like the wine bottles. You know, if we just stop having people that only come into my cafe and drink wine, we'd probably be alright. Right, we've got a nice little wine bottle. Everyone does like the wine. I think I've opened a cafe in a city full of alcoholics. Storm of Pensions, is that the collective noun? I'm using that from now on. I think it is the correct noun. Like, if you go down to Blackpool and look at the arcades down there, I think Storm of Pensions is the technical term they use. When Talisman stream. So at the moment we're going to be streaming Board Game Cafe weekly on Wednesdays. If I've got time to throw in a Talisman stream, I will do, but I can't confirm whether or not we'll be able to do that at the moment. I might see if I can do that next month. See what we fancy doing. But we're very busy, and I say we, the royal we. We have a very, very, very busy schedule at the moment. I've got a very busy I've got a meeting in an hour and 45 minutes that I need to be prepared for. I had a busy day on Saturday. Does that make sense? It's the weekend. But yeah, we managed to do quite well. Right, yeah, so I'll have a look. I can't promise we'll have another Talisman stream this month because we've already stacked with Board Game Cafe streams. But possibly next month I'll be able to stream from Talisman for you all. I see the use of pounds and dollars. Will there be a set currency or will you go with a neutral choice like in The Sims? That's something that we need to decide upon. Basically, we've just put those currencies in as placeholders at the moment because we weren't sure what we were going to do. But once we get to the point where we're actually rolling out the game in early access, we'll have made that decision. We basically just need to actually make that decision. A neutral choice like in The Sims probably would be a fun idea, like Meeple Bucks or something. Alright, so I think, as I've got quite a busy schedule, and I've shown off quite a good amount of the game so far. I am going to call it a day on the stream. So if you are watching me live, massively appreciate you tuning in. It's thanks to you guys that I'm able to do these streams and shout about all of our games and how cool they are. And if you're watching this pre-recorded, thank you for watching me ramble for how long? An hour and 15 minutes. So you've done quite well. If you liked what you saw in Board Game Cafe and you want to help us make it into a full game, there's loads of different things you can do. The coolest one you can do is adding it to your wishlist on Steam. Knowing that more people want the game massively helps us when it comes to making decisions on when we should roll it out, like how early should we roll it out. Like, it helps us massively when it goes to when we have meetings with publishers and people that would help finance our small studio. So adding Board Game Cafe to your wish list is literally the best way you can help us out as a small studio. After you've done that, follow us on socials. If you search for Nomad Games, you'll be able to find us pretty much everywhere. You can also join our Discord, which is full of many of the lovely people that you've seen chatting while I've been playing. And yeah, I'm loving this hot drink. Good. That's definitely a line that I would also say, because as anyone that's watched our streams knows, I do love myself a hot drink. Yes, so if you're watching this after the stream, thank you very much again for tuning in and giving me a watch. I massively appreciate it. And yeah, Wishlist Board Game Cafe. Do it. Go and do the thing. That's what I want you to do. And if you don't do it, I'll be upset. And that's the last thing anyone wants. So, thanks again for tuning in. Thanks for being lovely, everyone that tuned in live. And yeah, go Wishlist Board Game Cafe. I'll say it again because that's what I want to say. And I'll see you all on the next stream. Bye.